Hey there hunters, welcome back to the Gunners Guild. If you caught my video I uploaded yesterday, I had made sets for the Bowgun meta with budget charms and no armor augments for pretty much everything. I figured that was worth doing first, as most people are probably playing with normal charms and haven't had too much time to augment all their gear. Today though, we're going to be covering the super tryhard min-max versions of all the Bowgun stuff. A disclaimer before I begin though. First is that yes, these are not 100% realistic. The charms are still probably the biggest hurdle to get over. Armor augments, while expensive and time consuming, are not that particularly hard to get. I'm also not doing 100% optimal to the T augments, as the chances of getting like 2 skills and removing one of the ones on your armor pieces that you don't need is insane. It's like worse than charms. So all my armor augments are hand rolled and are typically just having one extra skill like attack up or spread up, or they have like 2 slot upgrades, which is not that hard to get either. And only a few of my pieces have rolled like a +1 slot and 1 skill, which seems kind of unrealistic, but I've hand rolled it like 8 times now, so I don't know. So I'm pretty much going to include maybe one of these in the sets sparingly, but I mean, again, it's not something that is like absolutely needed. I think the extra 1 slot usually gets me like some steadiness or something. So with that out of the way though, let's dive into this and start off with the Robo Guns. You can see now, compared to the budget note cards I had made earlier, this has a place for augments. And these are the total augments I have on my gear. You should be able to make a similar setup by playing around with your augments and just kind of matching it up. But do remember that this is not set in stone, and you can easily replace any augment or even armor pieces if you just play around with the system on your own. And you can just kind of put in any skill that you would need a deco for in place of it, and you're totally fine. The goal here is just to get 5 more usable skills out of the augment system. So there's going to be a lot of player accountability on how you build your sets. Anyway though, I'm starting this off with a rapid fire normal 2 light bowgun. Yes, it's not as good as spreads, but hey man, some people like normals. This critical firepower normal setup is using the Kimura crossbow, but you are free to use Gormagala if you wish. I picked up Kimura because it has better slots and raw, and honestly I don't really value affinity all that much in Sunbreak, especially because we just get 70% on every single set with weakness exploit and bloodlust. This setup is also using critical firepower as I mentioned, which you should always be using for normal ammo. While the silencer is not required to use critical firepower properly, it does let you be on top of the monster with being able to have all your damage. With a long barrel, you have that little dead zone in front of you where you're pretty much losing damage if the monster's on top of you, and I don't particularly like that. Moving on to the normal 3 light bowgun. Abyssal Hailstorm is our king, and again we're going to be using this with critical firepower. You do have your options of barrel, but again I would prefer the silencer. Now, before you call me a big dum-dum for having peak performance and bloodlust on these sets, do remember that when you clear bloodlust, you do regen all your red HP, so you should still have very high uptime on peak performance, assuming you're not getting hit, which you really shouldn't as a light bowgun user. The normal 3 build does hit harder than rapid fire normal 2s, and in general there's not much of a reason to use rapid fire normal 2s, but they do sound better. Next up is rapid fire Pierce 2s. As I had mentioned in previous videos, I prefer and value Malzeno's light bowgun over Shigaru because raw is more valuable than crit. That being said, we do have 100% crit here with max might up, and we should have extremely high uptime on max might as we really don't have to use stamina as long as we're using countermines, and between that and walking we should be able to avoid most attacks without needing to roll and use stamina. I was also able to slap on Defiance here, which is an extremely nice level 3 skill, granting us earplugs, tremor resistance, and windproof, all for just 3 level 1 slots. And of course we are using critical firepower here with these rapid fire Pierce 2s, make sure you're keeping a silencer on this one, don't put a power barrel on. We don't have any heavy bowgun versions of normals or Pierce, because I find it just far inferior to light bowgun sadly, so I will be skipping on these for now. I am playing around with a Siege normal heavy bowgun set, but I know it's inferior to pretty much every other MO and every other bowgun, so I'm not really sure how much use I'll get out of it, but I mean if it ends up being good, I'll put it on another set later. Let's take this gloomy train over to our favorite MO though, spreads, starting with rapid fire spread 2s. Now you do have an option here. You can use the Espina's light bowgun like I have, or if you run tune-up you can go with Gossarog and get the extra reload speed, allowing you to use rapid fire spread 2s there. Gossarog has minus 15% affinity, while Espina's has 15% affinity, so that is a 30% difference. And Goss only has 10 more raw, so it's not really a worthwhile trade. That being said, Goss does have exhaust ammo and stickies to make use of too, so I mean if you want to use it, go for it. Rapid Fire Spread 2s are actually really nice and they're very strong, but they're still not quite as strong as Spread 3s. But if you want to play some off-meta stuff, these still hit like a truck and you can feel like a hipster. But speaking of Spread 3s, let's take a look at our flagship Spread 3 setup, the Abyssal Hailstorm, with basically every DPS related skill on this set. There's not much to say here, it's just a lot of damage. Shoot spreads, kill monsters, the Bowgun can't really do much else than that anyway. Lastly, but not least, Heavy Bogan Spread 3s. It does get its chance to shine. Spread 3 Heavy Bogan is still my favorite style ever, and I will keep shilling it and running it. We really can't run peak performance on this set due to shoulder check just causing us chip, so I opted for Agitator instead, as it provides both raw and crit. I also took off Mail of Hellfire as much as I want to have it, because we do use redirection so much that we keep changing scrolls, and when I change from red to blue, I keep losing damage. I'm just kind of tired of losing that damage. So you can also run this same set with Magnamalo's Heavy Bogan as well, which does have better slots, and this could also alleviate some pressure on your augments and charms as well. I will probably use it more than Tetranodon's anyways, even though Tetranodon is stronger raw by raw standards. Magnamalo's does have the exhaust and the stickies. Now I didn't want to include just one raw Heavy Bogan setup because it feels so left out. So I went ahead and upgraded the Super Meme, Sticky, and Cluster Heavy Bogan set, in case you all just wanted to troll online lobbies. I mean, I really wish I can carry more ammo because Clusters and Stickies is so much fun to play. I actively enjoy using it. I just don't like having 12 clusters. That's like saying a Kinset can only use their bug 10 times. Like, why? Why do we have this limit? It's awful. Anyway, this set can be improved with Mail of Hellfire, but I just didn't have an augment that worked for it, so I didn't really bother putting it in. But if you want to get 15 more raw, you can kind of squeeze that in somewhere. Anyway, the set is largely the same as it was in pre-patch, but now we can fit in redirection without sacrificing any attack skills, and we're also able to put tune-up on our set for long barrel, but that's pretty much the only thing that has changed. It's still not good, and I don't recommend it, but it's fun, and that counts, right? Before we dive into the elemental setups, I do want to preface this section by stating out that all these sets are pretty much identical. Thank God it made this so much easier. The general idea is that all the elemental bowguns need the exact same skills, with just some variety of recoil and reload depending on the bowgun, but otherwise everything else should be the same, you're just changing the elements around. So, starting with light bowguns, we have Fire Pierce Light Bowgun Thrathlos, very much similar to our budget version, although we're going full ham with Suicide Mode with Dereliction and Mail of Hellfire. Light bowgun shouldn't get hit anyway. Rathalos Bowgun can run elemental reload if you use tune-up and take off your barrel mod, but again, that's a pretty minimal gain, so if you can't fit it on, don't bother. Critical Element and Weakness Exploit were also added in the upgraded from the budget versions, because with Bloodlust we do have 70% crit, which is enough to justify running Crit Element. Plus we could just use the level 4 Decoration to get to 3 anyway. Don't think it's mandatory though, if you want to run Steadiness instead of a Crit Element, you can. Now let's speed through the rest of these Elemental Light Bowguns really quick, because as I mentioned, they're pretty much the same sets. Water Light Bowgun, same minus tune-up because we don't really need it. We can't run elemental reload and have fastest reload even with the no mod attachments. We also get to run steadiness 3 in tune-up's place here, so we can actually get some extra deviation down, which is really nice. Thunderlight Bowgun with Kizu, again, same-ish set, although we only have one level of steadiness because we don't have that extra level 4 slot. It just goes zap zap. Ice Light Bowgun unfortunately could not squeeze in steadiness because Kushala's Light Bowgun does have no slots. But if you really need it, you can take out the critical element deco for the hard steadiness. 10% elemental damage is actually not a whole lot anyway because we're doing a lot of raw as well. And you're getting straight shots is far more important than you doing a little bit more damage. Now, I know everyone's going to throw a lot of heat my way if I don't include rapid fire elemental bowguns, as I typically haven't in the past. So I am going to be including them now, and they are still running the same sets. But because we have augments and stuff, it was actually a lot easier to fit in rapid fire up, so we can actually make these sets not terrible. But due to needing rapid fire up, we did lose out on some of the points of like chain crit and coalescence or steadiness. Otherwise though, they're all pretty much the same. I will also like to point out that yes, I acknowledge that rapid fire elemental ammo is better on longer hunts, as you can scale the raw more, and on a hit per hit basis, rapid fire elemental ammo is stronger. Yeah, I get it, okay? Just know that normal shooting elemental ammo is better DPS because it just shoots faster. But yes, you will also run out of ammo faster, and these new monsters that have more and more HP that we just can't get through normally will need the rapid fire ammos at times, so it is needed. So here are the rapid fire sets scrolling by. There isn't much to say about them other than that yes, I gave in, and here's all the rapid fire elemental bowguns. Lastly, let's go over elemental heavy bowguns, because elemental's all the rage these days. You know the shtick by now, pretty much all the same sets as they're flashing by, we're just changing around our elemental decos. Heavy Bogan is also still including redirection on all the sets because, as I mentioned before, I kind of need it for TA stuff, but also it is not necessary. If you can replace that with other DPS skills, if you want to use redirection and stuff, great. It'll help alleviate pressure on augments and charms. For the fire heavy bowgun, you can run the orangutans here as I'm using, or you can stay with Ragnarok as it is with the budget setup, because it has better slots and better crit, it's much easier to use, and it's not really that much weaker than orangutans, plus it has all the better support emmos. It's still a great bowgun. Ice heavy bowgun is going to be using Luna Garens, but again, you can use Kushala de Auras to a similar degree, and it does have better supportive emmos. Thunder and Water don't have options. Gnarlwood Crab Heavy Bogan, that's all you get. Same sets, change some reload and recoil, that's it. Okay, so that's all my sets for the Bowgun stuff, and I will have these sheets available in the description and on my Twitter. Some errors are bound to arise, I'm sure, but I hope you all learned something or whatever, I don't know. Thank you all for watching though, good luck out there, hunters.